folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to Look Back at the Dice Tower. And this is where I take a look at reviews that I did a year and 5 years ago and tell you what I think of the games today. And we can see how they've changed over time. Now, 5 years ago this week, I actually didn't do any reviews. We were doing other types of videos. But a year ago, I did 15 reviews. So let's take a look at how these have turned out. First of all, we'll start with Baby Blues. This was a take that game about changing babies or annoying other people's babies. I gave it a 2 because part of that was because of the hype for it. You know, like, oh, this is great. And it turned out it was just a simple little take that game that wasn't very good at all. I found it very horrific, and I still think so today. Then Squish 'em Up Fantasy. Now, I love the artwork in this game, this idea and of, you know, just smashing the other people, and I love the artwork on the cover, but the game just didn't play. It wasn't that interesting, simultaneously revealing, but just there wasn't any oomph to it at all. Rings Up. This is catching rings or lining rings on your finger in a specific order based on the cards. This is definitely a kids' game. I don't think adults will like it very much, but for kids, a lot of fun. Then we have Balanced Duels. Now, this is a game that apparently has been an Essen for year after year after year. Last year was first year I saw it. A 2-player game, you roll dice, move pieces around, and trying to keep the whole thing balanced. It's not an amazing game, but it's a pretty cool game of trying to keep the device is pretty cool about balancing, and there are some interesting strategic decisions. Then we have Push a Monster. This is a kid's game in which you're putting monsters on top of this thing and then you're pushing them on, trying not to make any of the other monsters fall off. For kids, there's another game that's for kids, but it's a really cool one. Has a lot of nice pieces to it. Burger Boss. Now, again, this one probably would have got a 7.5, and I still feel this way, had it just better packaging. Putting it in that hamburger case is neat, except the rules don't fit in, which is kind of a pain. But it's just not a very practical thing to put on the shelf. But this game about building hamburgers and placing dice and doing things, that part of the game is really cool, and I like that a lot. Still like it. Antarctica. This is a really kind of intriguing game where you're moving your ships around the board and depending where other ships are and landing there and building things. The game has a whole lot of pieces which are do different things, and remembering what they do and how they score points is kind of intriguing. It has this way of scoring points where first place gets points for how much other stuff there is and so on, and I like that, and there's a lot of scoring in the game. I wonder if this one might be forgettable, though, as the years go by. Taverna. This is where you're running a tavern and different fantasy people are coming and you're trying to get them to come to your tables and make money off them and go to the different taverns, and a lot of special abilities. Was maybe the slightest bit too fiddly, but a pretty solid, interesting game. I like the theme of it. Between Two Cities. Now, this is like the not talked about Stonemaier games. You know, everyone talks about Euphoria, and that's certainly this year, Scythe. But Between Two Cities came out, and it was a game in which you're building a city, but you're building two cities, and you are between them. I know, the title. And you are working with the person on this side, and you're working with the person on this side, and your score is going to be the lower of your two cities. So everyone's trying to make both their cities good, and you're placing tiles, trying to figure out the best place to place them. It's a solid game. I don't know that it blew my mind. The concept of having the two cities that you're working with is interesting, but there's probably better city building games out there. Where are we? That was Between Two Cities. Now we're at Giraffometer. This is a really cool game. This one did not get as much love as maybe. The name is weird, but essentially you're trying to figure out the smallest of a group of numbers or the largest of a group of numbers. You know, the number of times it takes to get to the bottom of a Tootsie Pop, or the height of a giraffe in centimeters, and a bunch of things are out there. And they did a really good job at picking the questions for this one. I still wish this one had got maybe a bigger U.S. release. Then we have Kamisato Max, one of my favorite abstract strategy games, in which, and this is, Kamisato is the normal game. Kamisato Max added a bunch of different variations. Certainly the best version of this game there is. You can move your piece as far straight forward or diagonal as you can, and the color you land on is the color your opponent piece has to go, and you just have to get one of your pieces on your opponent's end line. And there's some variations to it, different things, and I like those variations. I like the way the game looks. This one is just an excellent, excellent game. Then we have Dr. Eureka. Now, wow, I liked this game when it came out, but it just This is in my collection still. It's a game that works for kids and adults, but mostly family style, where you have these beakers and you are trying to get the things in different orders. And so it teaches you logic on how to move them efficiently, but there's also the dexterity as you're dropping the marbles from one test tube to the other. Just played this one a couple weeks ago. Just works in so many situations. I highly recommend this game. Then we have Orleans Invasion. This is another one where my rating has gone up because this expansion for Orleans, and I loved Orleans to begin with, and I think my rating for that went up. But the Invasion added some modules, which I actually didn't care for some of the modules. They were okay. But the cooperative game, wow, I didn't think there could be such a thing as a heavy Eurogame cooperative game. But Orleans Invasion does it. It's really neat, and I enjoy it. Still looking forward to trying a new expansion for this one. And finally, Automania. And my rating for this has gone up. Automania is actually my top 100 games of all time. Well, so is Orleans. But Automania, man, I love this game. I love producing the cars, running the cars through the conveyor lines, grabbing the tiles, worker placement, getting tiles, building up your factory. It's interesting, the theming of making cool cars, but at the same time, it's light, but strategic. It's like that really cool mix. If you like those medium weight strategy games that offer a lot of cool choices, I really think you'll like Automania. If you've never heard of this game, definitely go check it out. Like I said, nothing from 5 years ago, but hopefully that gives you some idea of where these games stand with me now. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower Look Back.